At first, no one believed it. Rumors had been circulating for weeks across Ouagadougou. Whispers that a group of Burkina Faso engineers, working quietly and far from media attention, had been building something extraordinary. But even those who heard the rumors didn't truly believe them. After all, how could a landlocked nation in the Sahel, known more for its resistance wars than for aerospace, possibly construct a functioning aircraft from scratch? Then came the day of the unveiling. No announcement in Paris, no stamp of approval from Brussels, no World Bank ribbon cutting, just a crowd, students, farmers, technicians, elders, all gathering to witness something they couldn't yet imagine. When the hangar doors opened, revealing the smooth silver frame of the aircraft, there was silence. Not disbelief, not applause, just silence. The kind that comes when you see a dream made real for the first time.
The dream that took off without permission. They laughed when the first sketch of the aircraft appeared on a dusty chalkboard in Ouagadougou.
You don't even have your own cars, one critic jeered online. An airline in Burkina Faso, be serious.
But on the morning of June 5th, 2025, a blue and gold aircraft bearing the crest of a new national carrier taxied down the runway. It was sleek, real, and airborne. Burkina Faso, landlocked, battered by sanctions, and largely dismissed by the global elite, had just launched its own airline, funded, built, and operated without a single dime of foreign aid. This wasn't just a flight. This was a message. For decades, Burkina Faso was locked into the bottom rung of global aviation maps, dependent on overpriced regional flights, bypassed by major air routes, and subject to inconsistent service by external carriers. But in the aftermath of the 2022 coup led by Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the country started rewriting every rule in its governance playbook. From food processing to infrastructure, Traoré wasn't just fixing systems. He was replacing them entirely. The airline? That was the biggest gamble yet. And it started in secret. According to two engineers who spoke under condition of anonymity, planning for Air Faso began in late 2023, just months after Traoré publicly announced his government's intent to retake the skies. What followed was a 2-year sprint marked by quiet deals, clandestine training missions in Asia, and the repurposing of military hangars to build civilian aircraft prototypes. In a country where some rural roads are still made of red dust and gravel, the idea of developing a passenger fleet seemed reckless to critics. But to Traoré's team, it was a matter of sovereignty.
They control the skies. They control your people's freedom to move, trade, even dream.
Traoré said in a closed-door meeting leaked in January 2025.
We will fly not because it is convenient, but because it is necessary.
By March 2025, the first aircraft, a turboprop adapted from a military logistics plane, was tested on a short runway near Bobo Dioulasso. It was crude, but it worked. The second was a sleeker regional jet modeled after designs shared via new alliances with Pakistan, Iran, and Indonesia, part of a growing network of non-Western collaborators bypassing ECOWAS restrictions. And here's where it gets political. In February 2024, after Burkina Faso's official exit from ECOWAS, the regional bloc responded with economic sanctions and airspace restrictions. Most assumed this would kill any aviation ambitions. Instead, it accelerated them. Traoré's administration declared all prior air rights agreements null and void. Over the following months, it signed bilateral aviation deals with Mali, Niger, Chad, and Guinea, creating a new flight corridor independent of French-controlled air traffic routes. Within 8 months, runways in Niamey, Conakry, and Bamako were refitted to receive Air Faso aircraft. But the airline wasn't just for show. By June 2025, the new airline had 2 operational aircraft, a trained crew of 34, all Burkinabe, an air maintenance hub on the outskirts of Ouagadougou, built in just 5 months, a bookings app developed by local coders and available in French, Moor, and English, and perhaps most impressive of all, no debt. The entire project was state-funded through revenues from Burkina Faso's newly nationalized gold and cashew sectors. For passengers like Aminata Souare, a textile trader who used to pay over $600 for a single trip to Mali, the flight was nothing short of liberation.
When I boarded, I cried, she said, because I knew we were finally flying on our own wings.
What's next? How is this tiny, sanctioned country managing the logistics, maintenance, and expansion of an industry usually dominated by global giants and foreign consultants? And more importantly, what are the geopolitical consequences of a self-funded African airline operating outside of traditional Western control? If this caught your attention, drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe more African nations should break away from ECOWAS and take this route? Subscribe, like, and share this video if you support African independence in the skies.
An airplane that was fully designed and built within Africa. No borrowed technology, no foreign help, and no Western design plans. So how did this small West African country pull off something even wealthy nations struggle with? And why is the West suddenly feeling uncomfortable? Let's take a closer look. At first, no one believed the whispers. For weeks, stories were quietly spreading around Ouagadougou. They said a local team of engineers from Burkina Faso was working on something big, something that would surprise the world. Still, most people remained doubtful. How could a landlocked nation in the Sahel, better known for its history of uprisings than its aviation industry, actually build a real airplane from scratch?
Flight paths through fire. The strategy behind the skies. When Air Faso's first commercial flight lifted off the tarmac in Ouagadougou, it didn't just signal a new airline. It marked the arrival of a new kind of diplomacy. Not by embassies or bulletproof limousines, but by propellers and jet engines flying under sanctions beyond the reach of ECOWAS and right into history. But how exactly did a landlocked country, long sidelined in aviation conversations, pull off such a strategic feat? The answer lies in what you don't see on the flight map. Burkina Faso's new national carrier isn't flying into Paris or Brussels. Not yet. Instead, the first 6 routes connect African capitals and economic zones that are also defying the old order. Bamako, Mali Niamey, Niger N'Djamena, Chad Conakry, Guinea Kigali, Rwanda Asmara, Eritrea. Notice something? Not a single stop on that list is part of the France-led West African influence web. Each destination is either breaking away from old colonial systems, redefining national priorities, or outright defying international pressure. This is not coincidence, it's choreography. Behind the scenes, Traoré's government activated a web of silent agreements with these countries' agreements that cut through the red tape of traditional aviation law. Things like bilateral air services agreements done without the oversight of ECOWAS or international intermediaries. Tech-sharing protocols that allowed Burkina to acquire blueprints and flight software from Asian and Middle Eastern manufacturers. Pilot and engineer exchanges with Pakistan, Algeria, and Iran, countries that have long operated outside of Western aviation ecosystems. The Burkina Faso Civil Aviation Authority, once a tiny office with outdated manuals, was quietly upgraded to a fully digitized national regulator, staffed with Burkinabe engineers trained in Jakarta and Tehran. And when critics mocked these relationships as rogue partnerships, Traoré responded bluntly in a June 2025 press briefing.
They call it rogue when Africans build without permission. We call it sovereignty.
But the challenge wasn't just diplomatic or technical, it was economic. Launching and maintaining an airline requires fuel, parts, training, insurance, and customer trust. Most airlines are propped up by government bailouts, foreign debt, or huge subsidies. Burkina Faso had none of those. So what did they do? They built the airline as part of a wider economic strategy, where each moving piece supported another. Fuel independence. In March 2025, Burkina Faso signed a fuel processing agreement with Algeria. In exchange for gold exports, Algeria agreed to supply refined aviation fuel at a discounted rate, sidestepping international fuel vendors entirely. Aircraft maintenance hub. Rather than outsource maintenance to European firms, a $45 million maintenance, repair, and overhaul center was built near Ouagadougou Airport, staffed with local engineers trained abroad. This cut costs dramatically and laid the foundation for Burkina Faso to eventually service other African airlines. Passenger loyalty via national pride. Air Faso isn't just a mode of transport, it's been marketed as a symbol of resistance. State TV has aired emotional ads featuring women singing lullabies to babies on board, while elders speak of their ancestors who were forced to walk miles during colonial times. One ad simply ends with the words, "Now we fly." Still, international pressure is mounting. By mid-June 2025, France, the EU, and ECOWAS began raising alarms over Burkina Faso's unauthorized air routes. Brussels accused the airline of violating international codes. Rumors even surfaced that the International Civil Aviation Organization might attempt to blacklist Air Faso flights. But the attempt has so far backfired. Instead of scaring other nations away, it has attracted them. Niger has now pledged to purchase 3 aircraft from the same Pakistani manufacturer. Mali has hinted at joining a regional aviation cooperative headquartered in Ouagadougou. Even non-aligned nations like Ghana and Liberia have quietly sent envoys to observe Burkina's airline model. Curious to know if a country under siege can build a viable, independent air service. Spoiler, it's already happening. And in a twist no one expected, Burkina Faso announced last week that it would begin offering cargo transport services for cashew, mango, and gold exports starting August 2025. That means this isn't just about passengers. It's about trade, control of supply chains, and the end of relying on foreign-owned air freight companies. So what does this mean for West Africa? For France? For ECOWAS? And what might be the secret master plan behind the airline's real purpose? Because here's the thing, a national airline is only the first piece. A continent-wide aviation rebellion may be the next. Ready to see how this unfolds? We'll reveal the hidden connections between Air Faso, Burkina Faso's railway expansion, and a bold vision for a united transport network that could make West Africa truly borderless. In the meantime, drop your thoughts in the comments. Should other African nations follow this model? Are we witnessing the birth of a new kind of Pan-Africanism, not in words but in wings? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video.
Listen to the President of Burkina Faso, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, announce that very soon, the Burkina military will not be importing its armored personnel carriers, but will rather be manufacturing or assembling them locally itself. This is a declaration that he made on the Saturday of June 14, 2025, in a meeting with various key players of the south-central region of Burkina in a multi-purpose hall in Manga town, that is the capital of the south-central region. And according to the 37-year-old head of state, Burkina Faso has capacity to produce its own armored military personnel carriers. And as such, he has stopped ordering of the military vehicles from China and other places, as he calls on the military to produce its own vehicles locally, and is working on strengthening the Burkina vocational training institutes to equip the Burkina youth with necessary skills that will enable them to venture into manufacturing more items locally and turn Burkina into a manufacturing powerhouse.
From wings to wheels, the hidden blueprint behind Burkina Faso's boldest move. They said the airline was a miracle, a defiant achievement, a middle finger to the old world order. But what if it was only step one? Because while the world focused on Air Faso's historic first flight, Captain Ibrahim Traoré and his inner circle were already building something far bigger, a vision that connects the sky, the ground, and the very soul of a reimagined West Africa. It starts with an airline, it ends with a continental logistics empire, and it's already underway. When Traoré announced in early June that Air Faso would begin cargo operations in August 2025, most observers assumed it meant local food exports or humanitarian aid routes. But behind closed doors, government documents revealed a much bolder strategy. Burkina Faso wasn't just moving passengers or cashews, it was preparing to control the arteries of regional trade, bypassing every colonial-era channel still lingering in the post-ECOWAS economic system. Here's how the pieces connect.
Burkina Faso's latest bet is on its cashew industry. Efforts to utilize its abundant cashew apples are already underway. This new $11 million processing plant in particular is expected to create a new boom.
The idea for the plant came from the fact that Burkina produces nearly 2 million tons of cashew apples every year, and when you look at cashew nuts, there are two products, the cashew nut, which everyone knows is valued, and the cashew apple, where over 2 million 4-day counts are thrown away. So our mission is to transform 5,000 tons of cashew apples a year into a concentrate that can later be transformed into other products such as juice, wine, vinegar, and ethyl alcohol.
Authorities say the new plant will be creating hundreds of jobs.
As you already know, Burkina Faso produces nearly 2 million tons of cashew apples yearly, most of it wasted. But with the $1.5 million cashew apple processing factory launched in Penny earlier this year, those forgotten fruits became juice concentrate, energy snacks, and health tonics. The next problem? Distribution. Air Faso's cargo unit is designed to fly processed cashew products directly to regional markets, from Accra to Kigali, from Kinshasa to Luanda, cutting out the need for foreign-owned logistics firms and expensive overland transport. By owning the airspace, Burkina Faso is now owning the value chain, from farm to sky to market. Now here's where it gets even more ambitious. In a classified infrastructure meeting held in Bobo Dioulasso and leaked by sources in late May, the government unveiled a 10-year blueprint connecting air routes with domestic rail lines. The plan? Build rail cargo terminals at the base of major airstrips. Use short-haul trains to bring goods from rural farms to air hubs. Turn Burkina into the transit and trade-beating heart of non-aligned West Africa.
We're not building an airline. We're building a system that makes Burkina Faso indispensable.
It's a strategy borrowed from China's Belt and Road playbook, but tailored to an African reality: landlocked borders, underdeveloped roads, and hostile trade blocs. And just like that, Air Faso becomes more than a symbol. It becomes infrastructure. But while Traoré builds wings and rails, Western capitals are scrambling. A confidential briefing from the French Ministry of Foreign Affairs, leaked last week, reveals growing frustration over Burkina's rise. The development of Air Faso, paired with new trade corridors bypassing ECOWAS standards, represents a long-term threat to France's regional influence. There is urgent need to counter Burkina Faso's aviation diplomacy before other nations follow. Translation: they didn't think Burkina Faso could do it, and now they're panicking. ECOWAS, too, is facing cracks. Internal documents from Sierra Leone and Liberia show they've begun informal inquiries into establishing similar independent carriers. Guinea-Bissau has already sent engineers to Ouagadougou for training.
They sanctioned us into leadership.
But what does this mean for the people?
The first cans of tomato concentrate made in Burkina from the tomato processing plant in Bobo Dioulasso, Burkina's second-largest city. Local tomato processing is now a reality thanks to contributions from the local population. This venture into value addition will create great opportunities not only for the city but for the country.
We used to have problems with sales, and when producers managed to export, it was to Côte d'Ivoire. There too, the tomatoes rot on the way. With the arrival of the plant, this handicap has been dealt with.
The transitional president, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, invited Burkinabes to subscribe to the shareholding for the plant, eliminating the need for external aid. The plant will help to mitigate waste in the tomato sector due to insufficient storage and processing infrastructure.
This is part of the industrialization process. We can only be proud of our approach, which is understood by the people. The message for the Burkinabe is to have confidence, because this is concrete proof, and I invite the Burkinabe to continue to subscribe to the popular shareholding program. Endogenous development is a doctrine. We can only develop through ourselves.
Amid all the geopolitics and logistics maps, it's easy to forget the faces behind the numbers. Like Ismaila Diallo, a 25-year-old Burkinabe pilot who flew Air Faso's inaugural domestic route. Raised in a dusty village with no running water, he used to watch planes cross the sky and wonder who they belonged to. Now they belong to him, or Fatimata Zongo, a widow and trader who once took 2 days by bus to get to Niamey. Now she boards in the morning and lands before lunch.
I never thought I would live to fly, she said, but I lived to see my flag in the sky.
This isn't just infrastructure, it's dignity. So, what happens next? In the coming months, Air Faso will launch 3 more regional routes. The government has hinted at a joint aviation school with Mali and Niger. Talks are ongoing with South Africa and Ethiopia to provide longer-range aircraft, and most audaciously, there's now speculation that Burkina Faso will propose a new regional air alliance, independent of ECOWAS, potentially titled the Pan-African Aviation Compact. If successful, it would be the first African aviation bloc built without oversight from Europe, the US, or the IMF.
On to Burkina Faso now. There's an interesting story of success from the auto sector there. Specifically, the release of a new electric vehicle produced by a local manufacturer is being hailed as an interesting move for a country that's been more synonymous with subsistence agriculture, conflict and political unrest, especially of late. Now, while much of the country will not be able to afford these units outright, experts say it could lead to an economic upturn amid rising demand for electric vehicles in other African markets. Here's Ian Kinyua with the details.
Burkina Faso imports an average of 60,000 cars a year. Like many other African countries, it is a major consumer of second-hand units. But in recent weeks, vehicles of a different kind have been circulating in the capital of Ouagadougou. These are electric vehicles produced by local manufacturer Eto'o. According to the firm, their model boasts impressive features with a range of 330 kilometers on a single charge that can be achieved in just 30 minutes.
They said it couldn't be done, but here we are. With engines roaring, borders softening, and a flag that once stood for struggle now printed boldly on a jet wing, gliding across African skies. Burkina Faso didn't just launch an airline, it launched a challenge to the world. Now it's your turn. What do you think this means for Africa's future? Can other nations replicate this model, or will they be blocked by international pressure? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you believe in African independence, real independence, then like, subscribe, and share this video with the first person who ever told you it can't be done. Because now it has.